Welcome, horror lovers, to the very first episode of Reddit's scariest horror stories. If you think you've seen it all, think again, because tonight we're diving into some of the creepiest, most spine-chilling stories the internet has to offer. I've scoured Reddit's deepest corners to find tales that will leave you questioning the shadows around you and wondering if something's watching you right now. Whether it's eerie encounters, unexplained phenomena, or pure terror that'll make you sleep with the lights on, we've got it all. So grab a blanket and some snacks, and get ready to be thoroughly spooked. Now let's dive into our first creepy story. This one is called "I Downloaded an EVP App and It Ruined My Life," and it was submitted by Reddit user Cabbing Cremation. Now, dive in. My name's Aaron. This happened earlier this year, when I was 26, working as a security guard at a small rural cemetery in Pennsylvania. I'd taken the job for the quiet. Night shifts, good pay, no customers or really any interaction with people. Just me, occasional fog, and a couple hundred graves. Some stones out there go back to the 1800s at least. Cracked, tilted, half sunk into the ground. The kind of place that creaks when the wind moves through the trees, as well as looking straight out of a Tim Burton movie. As long as I can remember, I've never believed in ghosts. I'm atheist. I always figured death was the end. No light, no tunnel, just black. I went back to school part-time to finish my degree. I dropped out after my sophomore year. After coming back, I needed a Gen Ed class, so I took a theology religion course. We covered everything: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. What caught me was how every faith had its own version of an afterlife. My professor said something that stuck with me. Denying the unseen doesn't mean it's not observing you. I laughed, but that line got under my skin, especially during those empty 3 a.m. rounds at work. About a week later, I downloaded one of those ghost finder apps. You know, the ones that claim to read electromagnetic fields and spit out words spoken by spirits, attempting to communicate. I figured it'd kill time and boredom at the very least. Most nights it just buzzed, then one night it spoke. Aaron. It said my name. I froze, waited for it to repeat. It didn't. I told myself it was coincidence, a pre-programmed sound file of some assortment. It made the most sense. But from that point on, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Next few shifts I tried again. Cold, watch, behind. Then one night. Father. My dad been dead since I was 15. He's not buried there. I asked, "Who are you?" Stay. I deleted the app right then and there. After that, weird things started happening. Whispers too faint to be the wind. The shed door creaked or would lightly swing open even when I'd locked it. Fence lights flickered at exactly 3:11 a.m. every night for 3 days. I told myself, wind, wiring, raccoons, literally anything that could be normal explanations. Then my flashlight started moving. The main gate would be open in the morning after I'd checked it twice. I set up an audio recording one night, left my phone on a headstone, and walked away. When I played it back, I heard my footsteps fading and underneath them. Why do you doubt us? I don't even remember stopping the recording. I just remember being halfway to my car before I realized I was running. Now it wasn't just sounds. I started seeing things. Movement behind the graves, shapes ducking out of sight. Once a person kneeling near the old plots. When I called out, they stood tall, thin, and just watched me. I blinked and they were gone. Next night, knocking. Deliberate, rhythmic knocks on the walls of the caretaker's shed, then from the ceiling. I went inside. The air smelled metallic, similar to iron, like blood. The lights went out, came back on a second later, and the wooden cross on the wall was snapped clean in half. I don't even remember leaving the shed. Just the cold air hitting my face and realizing I'd been standing in the dark for who knows how long. Theology class got harder to sit through. Every time the professor mentioned spirits, my stomach turned. I tried deleting the app and every recording, but the files kept coming back. Even after a full phone reset, new recordings would appear overnight. Static, then my own voice, distorted, asking questions I didn't remember saying. Can you hear me? What are you? Show me. The last one had breathing next to the mic, and a whisper. You called us. I told myself it was my final shift. I'd quit in the morning, no explanation. Fog rolled in heavy around 3 a.m. My flashlight barely worked. Near the oldest graves, I saw a glow like a phone screen lighting up behind a headstone. I called out, "Hey, the cemetery's closed." No answer. I took a few steps closer and heard my name whispered right behind me. I turned, nothing there. When I looked back, the light was gone, but the stone I'd seen it over had my name carved into it. Aaron Thomas, 1996, 2022. My light flickered, then died. Something grabbed my arm, cold fingers too strong. I tore free and ran until I hit my car. When I looked down, there were bruises where it held me. I never went back. It's been 3 months. I dropped the theology course. I barely sleep. Every night at 3:11 a.m. my phone lights up. EVP recordings saved. I don't open them anymore. I tell myself I survived, but I don't think I came back whole. Because when I walk past windows or mirrors, I see movement, something following. And lately, every time I look at my reflection, it smiles first. Our next story comes from a Reddit user named Static Voices YT, and its title is, "While Renovating My House, I Uncovered a Crawlspace." The journal inside had entries about me. Now this one's going to be a creepy one, get ready. I've only been living here for a month. It's not much, but I got the place for a good price. Definitely a fixer-upper. It's in a good, quiet neighborhood, so to me, it was a no-brainer. I'm pretty handy and know my way around a set of tools, so I figured I could do most of the physical work that needed to be done. Some carpet and drywall replacing was the first thing on my list. It's a fairly small house, so I knew I would be able to do most of it on my own. The first week was fine, ripped up the living room carpet and threw on a fresh coat of paint. The days were long, but the work was definitely paying off. I do most of the self-renovations when I got home from work, so by the time I finished each day my bed was calling my name. Every night when I laid down to sleep, I would hear a light scratching noise. It sounded like it was coming from inside the wall of my bedroom, which only meant one thing. I definitely had rodents. The house was old, and the people that lived here before me did a horrible job with keeping up the maintenance. Unfortunately, there wasn't much I can do. Funds were already tight as it is, and I couldn't afford an exterminator at the moment. At first I tried to ignore it and just told myself I would get to it when I could. The next few nights were very similar. Day job, renovations, sleep. After a monotonous week of hard work, something strange happened. The light scratching I'd grown so used to hearing suddenly stopped. At first I didn't notice, but that night as I lay in bed, I realized the house was completely silent. I held my breath, waiting. Nothing. For the first time in weeks I relaxed. Silence, pure, beautiful silence. I was just drifting off to sleep when I heard it again. Not from my bedroom though, from the guest bedroom across the hall. Just when I thought maybe I lucked out, I was brought back to the harsh reality that is owning a house. I took off of work the next day to finish some more projects around the house. There was just a few more major things that had to be taken care of. After working most of the day, I grabbed myself a bite to eat and called my buddy Mike. I've been so damn busy with the house, it's been hard to keep up with social life. Mike was a handyman himself, so any questions I had regarding the house, I knew I could run by him. "Dude, how's the house coming along?" Mike asked. "Honestly, looking better each day. It's just extremely time-consuming. Oh, and by the way, is it normal to feel like I'm just bleeding money?" Ah yes, welcome to the sweet world of home ownership, he said with a laugh. Quick question. Have you ever dealt with mice around your house? I swear I'm hearing them in the walls. No man, that's ghosts, you have ghosts. Yeah, well maybe they can get rid of the mice. We talked for a bit longer before he let me get back to the last of my home improvement. The last project I had to tackle was the guest room. I had to rip the carpet up and take down some horrible wallpaper. I was just about to walk into the guest room when I noticed my bedroom door was cracked open. I know for sure that I closed it. It became a force of habit since I was a teenager. Whenever I left my room, I closed the door behind me. I thought maybe my exhaustion was catching up to me. I could not wait to finish this damn house. The carpet came up with no problem. The wallpaper was a different story. That took me forever. The last of the wallpaper was in the closet. I was just about halfway through removing the wallpaper from the closet when I came across the crawl space. It had been completely covered, and when I saw it, I admit I was taken by surprise. I used my phone flashlight to peer inside, and that's when I saw it. The mice droppings. I knew it. I knew something was crawling around back there. I was relieved I wasn't going crazy. Just as I was about to close it back up, I noticed something in the far corner. Pillows and a blanket, old and dusty, remnants of the past, no doubt. There was something else though, a book, some sort of journal. It was covered with dust and the pages were withered. This thing had been in here for a while. I read the first entry. Entry 1, I'm always alone. Nobody ever sees how I'm doing. I love them, why don't they notice me? I flipped through a few more entries, each written in that same messy handwriting. Entry 3, sometimes I hear them moving around upstairs. I wish I could be there with them. I miss being part of things. Entry 5, I saw them leave this morning. The house gets so quiet when they're gone. Entry 6, I like this little hideout. It's like I can escape reality, leave all my troubles on the other side of this wall. I couldn't tell if the person was lonely, delusional, or just writing some kind of creepy story. The entries were strange but not outright threatening. Still, something about that line, the house gets so quiet when they're gone. Strange. I set the journal down and grabbed my phone. Yo, Mike answered. Don't tell me you found the ghosts. Not quite, but get this, I said, holding back a laugh. I was ripping down wallpaper in the guest closet, right? Found a little crawl space. Mice droppings, nasty as hell, but also this old-ass journal. Journal. Yeah, listen to this. The house gets so quiet when they're gone, I said in my best spooky narrator voice. Mike cracked up. Bro, what kind of psycho used to live there? Who knows? I probably just uncovered the tragic backstory of some weirdo shut in. Maybe they got locked in and never made it out. Better stop reading that thing out loud at night. That's how all the horror movies start. Please, the only thing haunting me right now is the cost of drywall. We both laughed for a while before hanging up. But even after I put the phone down, I caught myself glancing at that open crawl space again. The journal was still sitting there in the beam of my flashlight, half open, like it was waiting for me to read the next page. My house was finally finished. Well, it was finished enough for me. I needed to relieve some stress, and I figured there was no better way than to have a little house-warming party. I invited a few friends just for some food, drinks, and laughs. While waiting for the food to be delivered, Mike had the best idea. Go ahead and get that journal, man. Read us some bedtime stories, he said over the laughter. There was some confused looks from my other friends, not knowing what he was referring to. Yeah, he found it in an old crawl space. Thing looks prehistoric. After some sarcastic cheering and egging on, I decided to appease the crowd. I cleared my throat and flipped to a random page. Entry 47. I've been here for a while now. I like what they've done to my place. It feels like home finally. Amazing work, keep going, someone said in a patronizing tone. I continued further. Entry 62. They're finally leaving. I did my part to make sure they knew it was time to go. Got it all to myself. All right, one more for the night, I said. I turned toward the end of the journal. Entry 89. He is changing everything. This is MY house. Patching holes and ripping up carpet. Bullshit. These are MY memories he is painting over. He leaves a lot. That gives me a lot of time to plan. He needs to know this house belongs to me. This was unsettling. This felt wrong. I felt a lump in my throat. I glanced over at Mike just as I finished the last words. He was sitting there with his goofy smile. Very funny, you asshole, trying to spook me. He must have snuck a personal entry in there when he was helping me set up for the party. This guy was never serious. We kind of laughed it off and continued on with the night. The food was great. The drinks were even better. My last few friends there said goodbye, and it was time for me to get some much-needed sleep. After cleaning up a bit, I crawled into bed. It didn't take long for me to fall asleep. I thought I was dreaming when I heard it. A knock. I wasn't sure if it was coming from the walls. Then I heard it again. A door. I knew it was a door. My door. I got up to check what the hell was going on. And then again I heard it. That was not from my door. The guest room. It was coming from the guest room. I opened my bedroom door and stepped into the hallway. I swung the guest room door open. I stood still trying to hear something. The house was quiet. I could only hear my own heavy breathing. Another knock. It was coming from the closet. Did I leave the crawl space door open? Did I leave a window open? Was a draft coming through? All thoughts that ran through my head in the half a second since I heard the knocking. I took another step forward, the floorboards groaning under my feet. The closet door stood slightly open, and I could see the edge of that crawlspace panel inside. I reached out a hand to push the door fully open, feeling a little ridiculous as I whispered, "Hello," into the dark. In the same heartbeat, the door exploded open. A figure burst out of the closet, a shadow lunging at me with a flash of steel in their hand. Before I could even shout, a knife slashed through the air, grazing my arm and sending a jolt of pain through me. Adrenaline took over. I stumbled back, trying to put distance between us, but the attacker was on me in a heartbeat. I barely registered the pain as I twisted away and bolted for the window. My only thought was escape. I jumped and hurled myself through it, crashing onto the ground outside. Pain shot up my leg as I landed hard, but I didn't stop. I limped as fast as I could toward my neighbor's house, my heart pounding louder than ever. That's where I called the cops, breathless, bleeding, and finally forced to admit that something far worse than mice had been living in my walls. In the end, the police found the crawlspace exactly as I'd left it, except for the journal lying open to that final entry. There was no sign of the attacker, and no explanation of how they'd been living there unnoticed. But I knew what I'd seen. The journal's final words were burned into my mind. This house will always be mine. I moved out the next week. Whatever haunted that house, whoever had claimed it as their own, I wasn't sticking around to find out what happened next. Okay, that one was a lot, but we aren't slowing down because this next one is just as creepy and dark as the last. This one was submitted by user Marvin35, and its title is, "I bought an old house in a small village, but something isn't right here. Let's get into it." When I bought the house, I thought I'd found a real bargain. It stood at the edge of a small village, a little isolated, surrounded by fields and a weathered wooden fence. The ad mentioned it had been damaged years ago in a fire, but the price was too good to pass up. I thought it would be my chance at peace, fresh air, a break from the city. When I arrived, everything was quiet. No cars, no noise, just wind moving through the grass. The house itself was old, its walls faintly blackened from smoke but still sturdy. I spent weeks fixing it, painting, sealing the roof, sanding the floors. It smelled of fresh paint, though sometimes when it rained, I could still catch a faint trace of burnt wood, like the house remembered what had happened. The neighbors were friendlier than I expected. An old woman showed me where the bakery was. A man helped me carry in my tools. Kids watched me from across the street. It all seemed so normal, peaceful even. That first night I made a frozen pizza, sat on the couch and just listened. No traffic, no yelling, no sirens. Only the creaking of old beams and the whistle of wind through the chimney. I thought, this place feels right. The next day I explored the village, a small square, a bar, a bakery, even a barber. Everything looked like it hadn't changed in decades. People greeted me politely, but there was something off, a heaviness in the air I couldn't name. That evening, I decided to check the attic. Between dusty boxes and furniture, I found a small wooden chest. Inside were several VHS tapes, neatly labeled. Harvest Festival 1990, Thanksgiving 1991, Christmas 1993. They seemed harmless, but something about them unsettled me. That night, curiosity won. I slid the first tape into my old VCR. The footage was grainy but clear enough. People were laughing, dancing, eating cake. Kids ran through the background. The same village, just 30 years younger. Some of the same houses, the same square. I wondered who had filmed it, and why the tapes had been left behind. Then someone knocked on the door. I jumped. On the porch stood an elderly woman with gray hair, sharp eyes, and a polite smile. "Everything all right?" she asked. I nodded, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just got startled." She smiled again. "I'm Mrs. Miller. I live across the street." She waved, turned, and left. Normal, harmless. And yet, something about the way she looked at me stuck in my mind, like she already knew what I'd been watching. A few nights later, while working late, I played the second tape, Thanksgiving 1991. Same field, same faces. But this time, no one was smiling. They just stood there motionless, silent. Sometimes the cameraman would pan slowly, and for whole minutes, no one moved at all. I stopped the tape. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Around 3 a.m., I noticed movement outside my window. I pulled the curtain aside just a little. There were people standing in the yards. Dozens of them, men, women, even children. All of them were staring straight up at the sky. They didn't move, they didn't speak. I watched for what felt like forever, until I finally closed the curtain, crawled into bed, and told myself I dreamed it. The next morning, everything looked normal again. Kids played, people waved. But whenever I glanced out the window, someone seemed to be watching. Just for a second too long. That evening, I went to see Mrs. Miller. Her house smelled of tea and old wood. I told her what I'd seen, the people outside, the tapes, the starring. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. "You shouldn't have bought that house." I asked why. She told me about something they used to do here, a kind of ritual. Once a month, the whole village gathered outside. They called it the Night of the Look. No one was allowed to sleep. No one was allowed to turn away. Everyone had to look upward. But one man refused, the man who used to live in my house. He mocked them, called them insane. A few days later, his house caught fire. No body was ever found. When I asked if she still took part, she hesitated. Then she said quietly, "I go out, but I stay in the shadows. I move when they're still. When they look up, I look down. I make sure they don't notice me." Before I left, she touched my shoulder. "If they think you're like him," she whispered, "run, but do it quietly." After that, she avoided me. Everyone did. People crossed the street when I passed. Conversations stopped when I came near. Then one night, I heard footsteps inside my house. Slow, careful. Wood creaking softly. Someone was in the hallway. When I opened the door, I caught a glimpse, a shadow slipping down the stairs, vanishing through the back door. I ran after it. Nothing, just trees swaying in the dark. The next morning, Mrs. Miller stood at her window. She looked straight at me and shook her head. "Don't talk, don't show you know." I spent the rest of the day researching the fire. There were a few vague mentions online. Man missing after mysterious blaze. No remains found. But one line stood out. They say the village took him. That night, I woke to soft footsteps outside my window. Then voices, whispering, chanting. When I looked out, they were there again. All of them. But this time, they weren't looking at the sky. They were looking at me. Their faces were blank, pale in the moonlight. In one of the windows across the street, I saw Mrs. Miller. Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head again and again before she turned off her light. Then came the knocking. Soft at first, then harder. I grabbed my bag and ran out the back door. Behind me, wood splintered. Voices hissed my name. I ran through the garden, into the forest. Branches whipped against my face. I could hear them behind me, running, whispering, breathing. After what felt like hours, I stumbled into a clearing. There was a small cabin with a light on. I ran inside and slammed the door. 3 people were there, 2 men and a woman. They looked terrified. One of them, a young man, asked, "You saw them too, didn't you?" I nodded. "How long have you been here?" "Days," he said. "They come for anyone who starts asking questions." Then we heard footsteps outside. The woman peeked through the window. Her face went pale. "They're here," she whispered. The young man stood up slowly, too calmly. Then he said, "You can't run from them." He opened the door. And they were there, dozens of them, standing in the dark, waiting. I opened the window and jumped out, running into the woods. I don't remember how long I ran. Outside, it's slowly getting light. I'm writing this from the floor of an abandoned factory, hiding behind old crates. I can hear them outside. I don't know if they've found me yet, but I know they won't stop looking. Are you still here? Or have you been too spooked and clicked off the video already? If you are, good, now get ready, because this next story comes in 3 parts. And I would be doing the usual YouTube thing of making you wait for the next parts. We are going through all of them here in this video, so stay tuned. This one is another one submitted by user Static Voices YT, and it's titled, "I was dispatched to a child in distress. The events that took place will never make sense, part 1. We know the last one by this user was a real crazy one, so be prepared for this one. Okay, let's dive into it. It was the last hour of my shift, the quiet stretch where you start to let your guard down. The calls usually calm down by then. Maybe a noise complaint, maybe a drunk asleep in his car. Nothing that sticks with you. Dispatch came through, voice crackling with static. Possible child in distress, they said. Anonymous caller, crying heard inside a home believed to be vacant. I remember the way my stomach sank, not from fear but exhaustion. Halloween night always meant prank calls, fake screams, some idiot hiding behind a bush trying to film reactions for the internet. But the dispatcher's tone changed mid-sentence. Caller said it sounds muffled, like someone trying to keep the kid quiet. That sentence killed my hesitation. I threw on my lights and headed out. When I arrived on scene, I radioed over to dispatch. "Dispatch, show me off at the location of the child in distress. I'll keep you advised." The house was completely dark. As I walked up the front path, I could hear faint laughter echoing from down the street. Kids still trick or treating, their voices carried by the wind. I took out my flashlight and stepped closer to the entrance. The front door was cracked open just enough to notice. Vacant house. Open door. Halloween night. All the makings of a horror movie. I kept my breathing steady and pushed the door open. The hinges gave a low groan that bled into the silence. "Police, I'm entering the residence." No response, only the sound of my own breathing and the faint hum of the radio on my shoulder. "We received a call about a child in distress," I said, voice steady but heart racing. "If anyone's hurt, make a noise or call out." As I continued forward to clear the house, I heard it. The soft whimper of a child, distant but close enough to make the hair on my neck stand up. I called out again. "Police, is anyone injured?" No answer, just that same quiet, stuttering cry. It came in short bursts, like whoever it was trying to hold it in. I swept the light across the room, empty. The sound seemed to come from deeper inside, maybe toward the back hallway, maybe below, it was hard to tell. I took a step forward. The floor creaked beneath me and the crying stopped. As I made my way toward the back of the house, my light caught a door, slightly cracked, leading down into darkness. The basement. I stopped at the top of the stairs and called down. "Is anyone down there?" Silence. The same heavy silence I felt since stepping inside. I reached for my radio. "Dispatch, send me another." Static. I adjusted the knob, tried again. Nothing, just more static. Something about it didn't sit right with me. I didn't have time to troubleshoot. If there really was a child down there, I couldn't stand here waiting for backup. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and started down the stairs. I began the slow descent into what I can only describe as empty darkness. My flashlight barely reached past the first few steps. With every creak of wood beneath my boots, the cries grew louder. Still faint but unmistakably closer. "Hang on," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm coming to help." At the bottom, I swept the flashlight across the basement. Left to right. Nothing. 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 Then the beam caught something in the far corner, a glint of metal. I stepped closer, raising the light. A cage. Not the kind you'd keep an animal in. This was built, anchored into the foundation itself. Heavy bolts driven into concrete, steel-thick bars. The top was fused to the wall with rusted brackets, as if someone had wanted to make sure whatever was in there never moved. The crying had stopped. I could just make out a small shape inside, pressed against the far corner. Then a voice, soft, trembling. "They lock me down here when I don't listen." I took a step closer, careful not to blind whoever was inside. "Who keeps you down here? Are you okay?" There was a pause, then a small voice answered. "The bad people." The words were so faint I almost couldn't hear. Then, thud. Heavy footsteps above me, slow at first, then faster. I froze, staring up toward the ceiling as dust fell from between the floorboards. Another step, then another. Then a shout, sharp, furious, loud. "No, no, no, you're not supposed to be in here." The voice came from directly above me. Before I could react, the basement door slammed shut. The sound echoed down the stairwell like a gunshot. Darkness swallowed everything. Part 2. My flashlight jumped in my hand, scattering light across the concrete walls. I ran for the stairs, taking them two at a time. I threw my shoulder into the door. It didn't move. "Hey," I shouted, "open the door, police." For a moment there was only silence, then a voice, soft just on the other side. No one was supposed to find out. "I'm sorry." I pressed my ear against the wood. "Who is this? Open the damn door." "I can't, it won't let you leave now." "What, whoa," I yelled. But the voice didn't answer. Footsteps faded away. I hit the door again, harder this time. Nothing, just the echo of my own breathing. Behind me came a faint sound, a small whimper, echoing off the walls. I turned the light toward the cage. The kid was still there, knees pulled to his chest, watching me. "Hey, buddy," I said, trying to sound steady. "It's okay, I'm getting you out of here." He shook his head slowly. He said no one should come down here. "Yeah, well," I said, lowering the flashlight, "he's not here now." The lock was old and rusted. I found a piece of pipe on the floor, wedged it through, and twisted until the latch snapped. The door creaked open. The boy didn't move. "It's all right," I told him. "Come on, kid, we're leaving." He hesitated, then crawled forward. When his hand brushed mine, it was ice cold. He looked up at me, eyes wide, face pale. "Thank you," he whispered. "I'll be good now." I swallowed hard, nodding once. "Stay close, all right." We started for the stairs together. The light flickered again. Halfway up, the boy stopped and looked back into the dark. "He doesn't like it when people try to take me." I froze. "What did you just say?" The boy's expression didn't change. "He's going to be mad." The flashlight dimmed again. Somewhere below us, the sound of slow, methodical footsteps. The sound crawled up from the basement, each step landing heavy and deliberate. It wasn't rushed. Whoever or whatever was down there wasn't hiding. I aimed the flashlight toward the dark. The footsteps stopped, leaving only silence and the hum of my radio still dying against my shoulder. "Stay close," I muttered, keeping my voice low. The kid followed without a word, bare feet brushing against the wooden steps. We reached the top. I threw my shoulder into the door again. This time it gave, not because I forced it, but because something let it. The sudden give almost sent me forward. I caught myself on the frame, gun up, scanning the hallway beyond. The air up here was cold. I stepped out, light sweeping across dust-covered furniture and wallpaper peeling at the seams. "All right," I said under my breath. "We're getting out of here." The hallway split. Kitchen to the right, living room to the left. I moved forward, clearing corners, each step careful and slow. Behind me, the kid's voice carried soft through the dark. "He doesn't want you to see him yet." I stopped, glancing back. The kid stood in the doorway at the top of the stairs, his expression blank. "Stay right behind me," I said. He nodded once. I tried the radio again. Static. I turned the volume down and kept moving. The kitchen was empty. Old table, overturned chair, one window covered by a sheet nailed into the frame. Something about the air felt thicker, heavier. I took one more step, then felt it. A sharp, blinding pain in the back of my leg. I stumbled forward, catching myself against the counter. The flashlight hit the floor, spinning wild light across the walls. I looked down, blood already soaking through my pants, dripping to the tile. The kid was gone. "Hey," I shouted, voice cracking off the walls. "Where are you?" No answer. Then somewhere deeper in the house, a laugh, high-pitched. Not scared, amused. I pushed myself upright, gun drawn, flashlight shaking in my grip. The laughter moved, first to my left, then behind me. It bounced off every wall, impossible to track. I backed toward the hallway, leg throbbing, gun up. A shadow darted across the doorway, small, fast. "Stop," I shouted, "don't move." The laughter stopped instantly. For a moment, the silence felt worse. Then from the dark ahead, that same small voice, calm. "You shouldn't have opened it." I froze. The light flickered once more, then steadied. The hallway was empty. Only my blood on the floor, and the sound of something small scurrying just out of view. Part 3. I was losing blood fast. Every step left a new trail behind me, dark and glistening against the floor. The pain in my leg pulsed with every heartbeat. I braced myself against the wall and kept moving, one hand clutching the wound, the other gripping my gun. The house felt tighter now, smaller, like the walls were pressing in. Somewhere behind me I could still hear him, bare feet slapping softly against the wood floor, moving slow, following. "Hey kid," I said, voice shaking, "I'm not gonna hurt you, just stop." A faint laugh floated through the air. It sounded closer than before. I turned toward the sound, flashlight trembling in my grip. The beam caught movement for just a second. Something low, fast, crawling across the hall before vanishing into the dark. My radio crackled on my shoulder, a burst of static that made me flinch. I grabbed for it. Dead air, more static. I was breathing hard now. The room felt colder. My vision was starting to blur. I needed to get out, now. I turned toward the front door, limping, dragging my leg behind me. Each step left another wet print on the floor. The house had gone completely silent. Then behind me, a whisper, not a young child's voice. No, this was different, raspy, deep. He belongs to me. I spun around, gun raised, nothing. My flashlight caught the stairwell for half a second, and I swear I saw something there. Not moving, just waiting. I stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. My breath came in short, broken gasps. Then light. Faint at first, through the front window, blue, then red, then both washing through the house. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. But then I heard it. Tires on gravel, doors slamming, voices shouting outside. Police, anyone inside? I dropped the gun and pounded on the door. Here, I'm here, officer down. The wood splintered as the door burst open. Flashlights and shouts filled the space. Hands grabbed me, dragging me down. I hit the floor hard, my vision tunneling in and out. Stay with us, get pressure on that leg. I tried to look past them, down the hall, toward the basement door. It was closed again. I woke up in a hospital bed hours later. My leg was stitched, bandaged, still burning. The detectives told me that backup had found me inside alone. No kid, no sign of forced entry. They asked me what happened in that house. I know I sounded crazy, but I had to tell them. It was the only way I was going to get some answers. I made sure to tell them every detail I remembered. The moment I got the call, the moment I stepped foot inside that damn house. The basement, the cage, the child, everything. They said my radio and body cam both went dark the moment I stepped into that house. Came back online when they pulled me out. They wrote it up as a simple injury on a welfare check. Equipment malfunction. Leg wound, unknown cause. There was no explanation. The child was gone. The person that locked me in the basement was gone. That thing, whatever it was, gone. I've read the report 100 times. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know one thing for sure. Nothing makes sense. I see things in the dark that aren't there when the lights come on. I still feel that something is watching, following me. And that concludes tonight's dive into Reddit's darkest corners. If you're still here, congratulations. Either you're brave or maybe you just haven't realized what's standing behind you yet. Just kidding. But anyways, if you enjoyed tonight's stories and want more sleepless nights, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell, because this is only the beginning. I'll be back soon with more tailies that will keep you looking over your shoulder. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and whatever you do, don't look under the bed.